Hello, hello, hello. It's Friday. What a better way to start the weekend and to end the week than to have a chat with two of my favorite people, Akmal Hanuk from Assadaqaat and Blessing Mutamba from NatWest. Welcome, both of you, to my LinkedIn Live shows. We're going to talk economic inequalities. We're going to talk about the power of partnerships, and we're going to just share our passion for all things Wales, all things diversity. So, first of all, let me welcome a Blessing. And Blessing, would you mind introducing yourself to the audience, please?
Great. Thank you so much, Bernie, and good morning, everyone. So my name is Blessing. I'm the Business Inclusion Program Manager at NatWest, and my role focuses on breaking down barriers to enterprise for ethnic minority-owned businesses, whether that's starting up, running an established business, or scaling up.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Blessing. And Akmal.
Hi, Blessing. Good morning. Wonderful to be on your show. Wonderful show and a great topic. My name is Akmal Hanuk. I'm the founder and CEO of Assadaqaat Community Finance, a not-for-profit organization helping entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs from Black, minority, ethnic communities, migrant communities, refugees, asylum seekers, to help them to financially empower themselves.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. You know, it's so timely, and I just love it when a plan comes together, because this LinkedIn Live show was planned some weeks back, but it is also the day after coming back from London from the Black British Entrepreneurs Conference, actually held at the NatWest headquarters in Bishopsgate. And, you know, Akmal, I'll start with you, because one of the things that I found to be really sobering were the statistics that we had received about the amount of Black businesses that get funding to now. You know, before COVID and before what they said before the Black Lives Matter movement, overall, 2% of Black, of all the funding that goes out goes to Black businesses. 0.02% of that went to Black female founders. And then the percentage, no, after the whole George Floyd, that tragedy, and people becoming more aware of the challenges that the BAME community faced, and there were all of these eyes looking at inequalities, things were done. So it improved from 0.02% to 0.16% of female founders who actually get funding. No, we already know that, and I had the privilege of actually being at the launch of the British Business Bank's report, Alone Together, Entrepreneurship and Diversity in the United Kingdom, where it talked about the disparities between not just the sustenance, but also the profitability of Black-owned businesses in comparison to their white counterparts, even though the report showed that in many instances, these Black-owned their founders were more qualified and also worked that much harder. So, sorry to start the Friday morning like this, but, you know, I've got to ask you, Akmal, because when I met you first, I actually met you at a Welsh Government Accelerator, the last Welsh Government Accelerator program. I was a coach, and you came as one of the funders to listen to the pitches. And I was very acutely aware of the unique way in which you support the community in finance. So I'm going to just spotlight you and just get your responses to that. And then I'll come to you, Blessing, to hear from your perspective.
Thank you, Bernie. I think you have touched on a very important subject, and the figures that you have quoted, of course, they are being represented with different surveys. But on ground, the situation is pretty dismal in terms of the financial exclusion that our Black, Asian, minority ethnic communities face, not only in Wales, but also in UK. In my work in the last sort of 22 or so of 2 decades that I've been working with the communities at the very grassroots levels, there have been issues in terms of access to finance. And whilst there is a number of other areas in terms of training, mentoring, advice, getting information, hand-holding, wrap-up support, all of these things do exist. But I think they are existing in a very limited way without the real understanding of the issue. And by that, what I mean, the cultural literacy, the social understanding, the key areas that people would like to access and to help with, there's quite a lack of those. But overall, access to finance has been one of the key areas that I have been trying to address. So my 2 or 3 researches that we did alongside Cardiff Business School, alongside Said Business School that we were part of LIBER program in 2021, the access to finance issue has been at the forefront. And with that, what I mean is that people have been excluded or having had this barrier to get across were about 3 key areas. One is the eligibility criteria of the mainstream financial institutions. Majority of our minority ethnic community members, and especially you have mentioned women, which I totally agree, alongside our youth that come from the communities as well. The first area that they feel is that the eligibility criteria is not really favoring them at all. And the financial institutions, they need to do something about that. The second, very quickly, the main area that we found also in our research was that interest is the main challenge or barrier for overcoming by the ethnic communities. Majority from faith perspectives, but also from ethical perspective. And the third one, which is particularly very important to understand, if we are looking at our women entrepreneurs, is the fear of debt. So the fear of debt is basically signing off an amount by which they are still not very sure whether that business is going to grow or what are the challenges. And it takes a little while to get that through. So these were the challenges by which I set up Assadaqaat Community Finance. And of course, I can explain a little bit more as we go along.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Just shouting out to Rachel Lacebican. Thank you for saying hello to us. Yes, and please, Rachel, you can add to the conversation with your any comments, ask any questions. We want this to be immersive, okay? And share with your network. Let's get this conversation going. We really want to hear what you think because there's so much. Now, thank you, Akmal. Thank you so much for that. And for those of you who don't know why we are here doing this and talking about this, we all work together. Blessing, NatWest, Assadaqaat Community Finance, and others work together on the Master in Diversity mission. And we have the conferences that are annual. The next conference is on the 16th of September, and NatWest and Akmal are integral to what we are doing. They are on the ground working. So believe me, what they're speaking from is experience. So Blessing, Akmal mentioned cultural literacy, social understanding. No, I just think that's one thing that NatWest exudes: cultural literacy and social understanding. That's been how I see NatWest operate within the ecosystem. So I'd like you to just come in and share your own perspectives on what we want to talk about. But in particular, tell us how it is that as a bank, NatWest has managed to evidence this level of social literacy, of cultural literacy and social understanding.
No, definitely. Thank you, Bernie. Yeah, I think it's been a gradual process to get to where we are now, and it definitely is one of those where we still aren't in the right place that we'd like to be in, but I do think we've made a lot of progress to get to where we are now. So as people might know, NatWest is a purpose-led organization. So at the heart of what we do, it very much is about leading with purpose, and also being the UK's most helpful bank for SMEs. So I think taking a step back to social understanding and cultural literacy, they go hand in hand. But where it really came to a head was where we started thinking about, okay, what do we define as value as a financial services provider? Of course, there will be typical things like looking at our bottom line, making sure that we are providing commercial value. But actually, we found that value looks like something really different for each of the cross sections of the SME market that we support, but also, like I say, the scale up and established businesses that we support as well. So we had to think about, how can we actually provide that value, and how do we find that value out? So the first thing that we do is we work with a lot of strategic partners. So Bernie, like you mentioned, Mastering Diversity forms a really big cornerstone of our, ethnic minority business engagement program throughout the year. Also looking at, working with Assadaqaat Community Finance, where we don't necessarily get involved with the delivery of the programs that they run, but actually what we're doing is we're supporting behind the scenes to share resource where we can. So that then brings us to the cultural literacy point. And again, those are just two examples. Otherwise, we'd be here for 3 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
I went through everything. But then, like I say, it then comes to why it goes hand in hand with cultural literacy. So our involvement with, organizations like Mastering Diversity and also ACF has actually given us an opportunity to start talking about, the cultural implications of how we can provide value for entrepreneurs from ethnic minority backgrounds, but also more widely underrepresented backgrounds. So, for example, even the most minute things like, the times of the day to contact people, some people have, prayer times during the day, looking at, how to make our physical spaces more comfortable, but also promoting cultural understanding amongst our colleagues as well. So we actually run cultural literacy sessions for our customer-facing colleagues across enterprise mainly, but also in other parts of the bank. And that looks at how people's religious and cultural, backgrounds might actually influence how they interact with the bank, how much they trust us, and also what we need to do to show that we are being empathetic and also acknowledging that everyone comes from different backgrounds as well. So again, a really simple example is thinking about how Akmal mentioned, the perception of debt. The perception of debt can be, varied depending on which, cultural network you go to, which, religious background you go to as well. So it's also thinking about how do we then implement some of those measures, within the services and propositions that we provide, but also how do we learn from our partners as well to make sure that we're also providing what value looks like for, our ultimate end users. So it's quite a nice way to be able to reach both existing customers, but also our wider communities who aren't necessarily bank customers as well.
Yes, fantastic. And I'm ever so grateful for the support that NatWest has given to the Master in Diversity mission. You've joined the task force, both of you. But you know what? It goes back to my mantra: we go together or not at all, which actually was quoted on the stage yesterday. I was shocked. It has taken wings, that statement. Yeah, because when I was invited to chair the advisory panel for the CAE's Center for African Entrepreneurships, ending workplace exploitation of migrants, and I reached out to both you and Akmal. You did not think twice about joining the panel and to do the work there, because we've got to collaborate. It's not just our one little mission. And as you say, there are so many other things that you get involved in. I was at an event that you both had with other people that are doing the work at Cardiff University some time back. And the work continues. But yesterday at the conference, they shared from the stage the Black Pound report on Black and ethnic minority consumers, because there's there's so many levels of that we have to think about when we think about economic inequality or economic inequalities. So it's from the perspective of the support that you get as a founder, the venture capital part of it, the supply chain context as well. And also having regard to the fact that this report is saying that despite the fact that there is not that this similar level of support for the Black founder, for Black businesses in terms of investment, there's a lot of money that comes into the economy from the Black and ethnic minority consumers. So the Black Pound report 2022 found that the BAME disposable income is worth up to 4.5 billion. Yes, their multi-ethnic consumers are spending 230 million every month on health and beauty. We are, even though it's still hard to find products that we need, and then you're looking at supply chain, right? There is a case that we should actually be considered to get our products on the shelves of retailers, get our product, in the normal Welsh supply chain, because the portion of diverse suppliers that meet expectations when in the study was 76%. That's a high portion of Black suppliers that are meeting expectation of consumers. The portion of diverse suppliers that exceed expectations is 23%. And the portion of diverse suppliers that fall short of expectations is 1%. So that's good, so it's not about saying, bring in, diverse suppliers just because. What the report is saying is the diverse suppliers are doing really well. The statistics are showing that consumers are pleased. So yes, please support us and other ethnic groups to get into the ecosystem and create great wealth, because there are billions that the economy could actually benefit from. Look at the Alison Rose review, what it said about women, the NatWest Alison Rose review, Blessing. It was 250 billion pounds, they say, that female founders could bring to the UK economy if they were allowed to launch and sustain at the pace of their male counterparts. So, what are your thoughts here? Having regard to anyone? Have regard to that. Yes.
Can I come in?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Don't be polite.
Okay. Thank you very much.
People, us, Bernie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, the main thing, I think you mentioned some very good figures, and our work also you mentioned, and Lessing has also mentioned the collaborative work, with yourself, Bernie, and NatWest, and other major key mainstream organizations. So I personally, what I feel is that there is a huge potential. I totally agree with you. In the last conference in November that you referred to at the Cardiff University, where we were all there, where we were trying to discuss or enable to find out the best ways for collaboration and to develop an inclusive and diverse ecosystem. Over there, Professor Monderam mentioned that the ethnic minorities have the potential to increase the turnover or the add value, the gross value addition of the current 25 billion pounds to 100 billion pounds. And this is exactly some of those things that, Bernie, you have mentioned, that people are very entrepreneurial in ethnic minority communities. There is no dearth of motivation. There's no dearth of finding the different kinds of businesses that you've mentioned. And in our work in the last three years that we have worked over, engaged 3,000 women and young people, we find that there's such a diversity of business ideas. The issue, therefore, then is that we are, or these organizations or these people, they are aspiring entrepreneurs, and they are not really looking for support in the sense of only the grants or things like that that they want to have. They are very much looking into professional support alongside access to finance, which actually is very important for them to be able to access that in the terms that they feel that they can really contribute to. What we are trying to do is that we are giving them a financial system, and with that, we hope that they will fit in. That's where the crux is, and that's where ACF, alongside NatWest, we are all working together to be able to help the people to bring in alternate ways of finance, which are very easy to access, which, as I mentioned, eligibility and the areas that people are wanting to return that money back on various propositions. Now, my really area that what I wanted to emphasize, as you mentioned, is that when we start getting inquiries from the people who want to start the business, that's where the key to success lies. There is a critical period of 42 months after they have started the business. And those 42 months are very, very critical in hand-holding, advice, mentoring, and finance. Now, majority, as you will see, number of business support organizations, they are like one-time support, and that is it. There are limitations to the length of hours that they can do to be able to support that entrepreneur. So what you're alluding to is basically a continuous journey. And that's what we try to bring within ACF alongside other partners to be able to establish themselves and get to that figure that you just mentioned about women entrepreneurs and the
Yes,
young entrepreneurs.
yes. I wanted to ask you, am I correct, Akmal, that one of the problems that you solve is the cultural dynamic where there are certain cultures that cannot take advantage of the loans because their interest, they're not, it's not, the religion precludes them from paying interest, but you come with a product that solves that. Am I correct in that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the innovation that we have done, Bernie. And
Yes.
this is what I was saying, that in the three barriers that I identified, interest is the main thing. And, you know, the interest is not only for any faith proposition, it is an ethical principle as well. Our experience is that at the micro, small, medium enterprise level, if we want to allow the growth of that business and sustain their business, it is important that they invest back into the business rather than paying out the interest.
Yes,
And
yes.
that is what stunts the growth. And this is what we have addressed. But our model is very unique and innovative, that what we are saying to people is that we can give you this money, and which is also donated by the community and the foundations and trusts and high net worth individuals. And what we say to them is that they can take this capital and just return this capital based on affordability, not based on interest. So
Yes.
what we do is that when we develop a business plan, we put that affordability into the business plan.
Yes.
And if they can pay 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 50 pounds, 100 pounds, whatever this business allows them to do it, that's the transformational piece that we bring
Yes.
to the community, from transforming the beneficiaries into benefactors.
Okay.
So
Oh,
that money then circulates to other
right.
to other
Thank you. Thank you very much.
aspiring.
Thanks for clarifying that. Now, Bessin, NatWest, one of the things that you are very strong on is partnerships. And that was very evident last year when you sponsored the Diversity in Business Zone at the conference. You had partners in your zone delivering great expertise, like Football Association Wales. You had Deloitte, who are serious DEI
Yeah.
exemplars. And they are actually, thanks to, and this is the power of partnership. So they were in the zone last year. This year they're come back as sponsors as well.
Oh, amazing! Wow,
Yes.
really good to hear.
Exactly. And I also developed a very strong partnership as well with Football Association Wales coming out of that.
Really
So,
good.
I just need you to know, NatWest, you are doing so much to support the ongoing success of the work as it is. So thank you for that. So now, I just wanted you to just highlight a bit of what you put together in the zone last year, because we got feedback, and it was great feedback from your zone. So I sorry to put you on the spot. I didn't tell you in advance, but if you can share a bit about what you are born ready. Bless you.
Oh, I don't know. Pressure is on, Bernie. No,
Yes.
no, I think you're right. And also, for me, definitely, that's one of the, key kind of mantras as well that I operate on within my day-to-day job. It's that you just don't know who you're going to come across, and you don't know what information you're going to find out. So I think you're right in terms of, the power of partnerships. It's really important to just keep an open mind and, keep being curious, but also, like you say, keep making those connections for other stakeholders, because ultimately it does benefit the wider ecosystem as well. So coming to what we did in last year's zone, so we took a few different angles actually. So one of the angles was talking about women in business, and we talked about one of the non-executive directors who had just come on at the time onto the board of the Football Association of Wales, and she talked about her journey and how, if we had asked her 5 years before, would she be joining Football Association of Wales, she would have said no. But it was really powerful because, she spoke about her career in the legal profession before she, stepped across to doing all of the non-executive directorships that she had going on. But also really talked to that, I don't even want to call it imposter syndrome, because I think that women in business, the research shows that actually, like you say, women in business are very entrepreneurial, but it comes down to the external noise actually being the main contributing factor to those stumbling blocks and those barriers that women in business face. So I thought it was a really powerful way to demonstrates someone's courage in, like I say, having that open mind, you know, going across to an industry where, football obviously is very male dominated as well. And it was just a very complementary subject matter to talk about, both from an individual point of view, but also thinking about, you know, the entrepreneurial point of view. We also,
yes, and the thing is, as well, sorry, Blessing, this lady was actually on the board at the highest level. She was the chair, Alice Carlton.
Yes.
So you know, that just evidence the where things have come.
Yes. Oh, I totally agree. And, you know, the way she articulated the story was just so honest, so authentic. We talked about, you know, her journey with motherhood. We talked about her journey with, you know, being in the family that she was in, with all the expectations of, you know, her achievements. But also she just talked about her own internal monologue as well, going through all those experiences and, you know, the positives, but also some of the moments where she wasn't sure, you know, how things were going to go. So I thought, like I said, it was a really complimentary, you know, conversation topic. We then also talked about, you know, diversity in employment as well, specifically ethnic diversity in employment. To Akmal's point around eligibility criteria, we also, you know, kind of broadened people's horizons around some of the aspects that can really hinder individuals who possess a lot of potential to get into the workforce and to really thrive, you know, in their respective fields as well. That was very thought-provoking because I think on a day-to-day basis, a lot of the conversations that we had probably don't cross people's minds. But more importantly, we got comfortable with being uncomfortable as well. It was a very honest, real conversation about, you know, what practitioners are doing, the gaps in their support, but also they started thinking about, you know what, after today's conversation, what is it that I can make? What are those small but powerful changes? Which again is, you know, the best thing that we could have hoped for, because it's not about, you know, changing the world. It's just about making those small, powerful changes on a collaborative level as well.
Exactly. My whole thing is, it's not about saving the world or changing the world, but it's definitely about changing where we are.
Exactly.
You know, it's where we are. You know, use what we have in our hands, and it's incredible. And you know, as we look at from the last 12 months and look at the people that have come to join the movement, all of what we, you know, our various initiatives. And I look at the event that you had, that was incredible. And it was, remind me of the name. It was about Wales, the one with Colin Jackson.
Yes, connecting the dots for supply chain diversity in Wales.
Yes, because I had the privilege of speaking alongside, beside that legend at that event. But there were so many people in that room, including Akmal. I'm sure you were there, Akmal. You're always at the best of places. Anything where equalities.
I was
Honestly,
going,
you are just, you know, I've got to give you credit and honor, Akmal. You just show up for everyone. You're not just for the Asian community. You are for all, and you're not just for the BAME community as well. You go mainstream, and that's what I think. You know, we can't stay in our little areas and just be about us. And that then is just being a part of the problem, and that takes me to my whole view on the you know, the diversity and inclusion piece. And I think I'll spotlight myself for this, because I've got to say, I really need us all to listen, right? What we're doing, audience, is really about debunking, just it's not about the 9 protected characteristics only. If we only think about them, then we are part of the problem. It is socioeconomic, as well said earlier on. It is about cultural literacy across the board. It is about the people who are invisible in their isolation and their exclusion, because nobody takes the time to find out about them. And I keep talking about Anwen Aspden, the day she showed who this lady who would look like privilege, white, blue eyes, beautiful, slim, in a wealthy, you know, in a great job. Listen. And what she said to me was, she didn't want to talk about the digital inclusion in terms of her keynote, even though she was sponsoring the Digital Inclusion Zone last year, she said, Bernie, may I please talk about adoption? Because nobody understands what they adopted, they fostered children, really go through, who contemplates them. You could have heard a pin drop, but I was dancing inside because she was just the example of what this is all about. So, and at the end of the day, today is about economic inequalities. It's about strong partnerships. But in that context, we are not going to forget the intersectionalities, because that is how you build partnerships, because that is how you get true engagement. So does anybody want to just come in and based on what I've said and just add to it?
I think you just captured the essence of what I keep talking about around this whole open-minded nature as well. Even when you think about ethnic diversity, the definition of ethnic diversity today is different to what it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago as well. And whenever I speak to people as well, I'm always curious about their background, their heritage. I came across one guy, so he's from a white background, but actually he grew up in the Caribbean, and he was saying, you know what, it's such a different experience. And you would think, okay, that this is a middle-aged white man who probably hasn't had much exposure to challenges in his life. But it's not until I started speaking to him and I thought, my goodness, okay, you know what, my assumptions were actually way left field. So I think you're so right, Benny. It really takes curiosity first of all, but also, like I said, listening with an open mind and actually absorbing information, because until we foster a environment of mutual understanding, it's not to say we all need to agree with each other, it's not to say we shouldn't have healthy debate, but what I am saying is that starting point of absorbing information from a balanced point of view is so important for us to be able to agree as individuals or organizations what's for us, what's not for us, and within what is for us, what can we do to be allies or be advocates for whichever diverse backgrounds that we'd like to support with or get involved with. So I really think the power of having an open mind, absorbing information, being curious is just so underrated these days.
Oh, honestly, and I just love what you said. My heart started to sing when you mentioned it's not about agreeing with each other, because we seem to think that if we are going to be truly inclusive and truly have people belong, that we have to agree with them. We don't have to agree with them. We have to respect the difference.
Yes.
We have to value the difference that they bring. We have to also be open to the concept that we might not be right as well.
Exactly.
There's a thought.
Oh, definitely.
That we might not be right. Akmal, please jump in.
Yeah, thank you, Bernie. Blessing. I think agree in terms of that. We are a mainstream, and we should think mainstream, because we have all the elements of education about everything that anyone else is doing. So I think you mentioned very correctly that we are, or we should be, the part of the solution. Now, I think the main thing that all of us are doing here, especially in the positions that we are in, is to be able to help the mainstream understand that there are challenges. There is a different way of thinking. There's a different way of engagement. There is a way to get the trust of people and to work alongside. Now, what that does, actually, in my experience, that we have been working with mainstream organizations, is that we enrich their understanding. We enrich the systems that we work with. And, the main area that we think is that a lot of the people come back to us, and I'm sure, Bernie, with you and with Blessing, and they said, well, we never thought about this, we never understood that there are these small things that matter. And so many examples of that we can give of different communities behaving in a different way. But we are not saying that we are changing the objectives of
Mm-hmm.
social and economic inclusion, addressing social and economic inequality, or alleviating the cost of living crisis or poverty that we are saying. So I think we are all working towards that. You mentioned a very crucial point about the supply chain. Now, my experience is that once people start getting businesses or they are startups, the system is geared again towards creating those barriers to access that supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pointing towards the major anchor organizations who could be very much getting or empowering or increasing the capability of our local small businesses. Unfortunately, they can't get into that procurement system. And this is where a lot of the people do not understand what is the remedy that they will have to. So I was very pleased, in that event that you mentioned. We have also had a few events like Bernie with yourself, with
Yes.
Blessing with yourself, supply
Yeah.
chain. But I think it's a whole process. It's understanding the culture. It is understanding the sensitivities. It's understanding the challenges and barriers, and
Mm-hmm.
then doing something about it within that mainstream organization.
Mm-hmm.
And that is important for us, that we are all trying. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are just trying to share our experiences, that there is an alternative way to achieve the objectives, but through a different engagement process.
Mm-hmm.
And can I just come in on that, Akmal? Because I think, what you mentioned is so important about the understanding of, how those supply chain processes work, but more importantly, where to find the information, and also where to
Yeah.
find, the people who can open the doors, for those opportunities. I think, there's a bit to be done there across the board generally around how we can make access to the information and to the relevant decision makers easier to navigate and better to find. But also, I think, a lot of feedback that I've received from a lot of entrepreneurs is, okay, so when we do get to that stage of, finally identifying opportunities, sometimes it's not very clear about, what exactly is expected of that supplier. Even
Yes.
things like, payment terms, if a supplier is meant to supply, the goods or services in advance before they receive payment. All those are also, really key barriers that I think if we could address, they're straightforward enough to address. And if we could address those, it could really start to, level the playing field. And
Mm-hmm.
another thing as well is thinking about the general perceptions, of the types of businesses that ethnic minority entrepreneurs usually run. So we're thriving in, industry sectors such as catering, hospitality, also leisure as well, sometimes as well.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, when we think about, the perception of, industries like those, sometimes they can be perceived as lifestyle businesses, or, the potential of those businesses to grow is not accurately captured enough for, them to have the opportunity to play alongside the, the bigger organizations as well. So I think there also needs to be a shift in perspectives of, the organizations that hold the contracts to say, actually, there's a lot of potential here that we're missing out on. And also there's benefits in having those suppliers on their supply chains, because access to diversity of thought is so important. Even
Yes.
something straightforward as, if maybe in an organization there isn't as much ethnic diversity, for example, they won't know that, oh, actually, do you know what, Caribbean food is very tasty and we could, serve this for our lunch times, or we could use this as a, catering option for, our group activities. So even just, conversations like those, by being around diverse individuals, it doesn't, necessarily mean that it needs to be limited to that
Yeah.
specific contract that people are tendering for, but
It's
actually,
interesting you said that, Blessing. That's interesting because I audited an organization that did the EDI audit recently, and they come out really well to the share. But one of the things that came up in my interviews with staff 101 was that when they had the staff get together,
yeah,
nobody contemplated the other cultures for food.
Exactly.
You
And
know,
also
it's as simple
as
as
well.
that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
you know, those simple ways that you can have people feel
Mm-hmm.
that they can be included. And you know, in terms of even how you know, this organization had before it sat did the audit, so that was
Mm-hmm.
their own thing. They also had a great good meetings policy, yes,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
contemplated a lot of things, right? And but despite that, without the benefit of what I was able to offer in the audit package, where I did a more intuitive survey that was more EDI focused in getting to the meat of the matter, that you know, if you just tick boxing, or if you're not really aware of certain things, you don't get to. They discovered that 30% of their staff were neurodiverse.
Oh wow.
Yes. But what I was so, you know, thrilled to see, in fact, I
Mm,
will name them because they're very proud that they have put out that I've, you know, audited them. So I'm saying a good thing about them. A Center for Digital Public Services, and
mm-hmm.
they are they're an arm's length body of the Welsh government, only just over 2 years old. But the things that they have in place and their attitude to
Mm-hmm.
EDI, once they got that report finding and they discovered that 30% of their staff were neurodiverse, before I got to that senior leadership team meeting with the board to have a final debrief, they already took action. They said, Bernie, when we looked at that, we discovered that we canceled some meetings because we realized that despite the good meeting policies, there are certain things that we hadn't put in place that
Mm-hmm.
the neurodivergent would need before going to a meeting. Those simple things like getting the agenda in advance, and you know, looking at the room and all sorts of various things. And they said, no, we've got to get it right. And I thought, that is the kind of thing it is
Yeah.
about. And that is when we are able to exchange, have knowledge exchange, and we are open to learning, you know, new and better ways of doing what we are already doing well, because we're
Mm-hmm.
not saying across the board, oh, we all are getting it wrong. We're saying sometimes we're going around a little bit in the dark.
Yeah.
Yes. And together we can shine a light on it. So I want to just you know, say kudos to Center for Digital Public
Yeah.
Services. Their gold EDI exemplar status, and they still think they could do better. That's the kind of organizational culture that we want to see developing more. And I know NatWest, obviously, you know, you are ahead of the game in that, and they would be great collaborators with you. I think I mentioned them to you.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and I know you're going to be further in discussions with them. Yeah.
No, and
What?
also I
Yeah.
oh sorry, Akmal, you
Oh,
go.
I
No,
love
no,
this.
you go
Yes,
ahead.
we're bumping
I
into each
know.
other.
Go ahead. Go ahead, buddy.
No, I was just going to
Good.
keep it short and sweet. And, you know, I think also, Benny, another key thing to take away from, you know, that case study that you just mentioned is not waiting for people to ask for, you know, measures or to ask for that accommodating, you know, direction that we need to go in. I think the fact that, you know, they're being proactive in everything that they're doing, again, just promotes what inclusion and sense of belonging should be. I don't think, you know, it's one of those things where we all just need to wait and sit back and say, oh, you know, someone doesn't want to, you know, access a product or service, and they'll tell me, because actually that's not always the case. And it can sometimes be demoralizing for someone to have to ask, to say, you know what, this is just a basic requirement that I'm asking for. I'm not asking for a lot. And that whole, you know, experience can actually just I guess demotivate people from entrepreneurship or, you know, employment in an organization or whatever the case is. So I just wanted to also pick that key point out about not waiting for people to ask for accommodations. I think that should be at the forefront of our minds already.
Absolutely. You've got to
You
be
know.
proactive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on.
And I think, no, I think that is a good point, Blessing, that what you mentioned, that the services have to be at the doorstep, you know, or at least at the front door of any organization, that you are welcome. You
Yeah.
can come in, you know, that atmosphere needs to be created. And if you remember, my thinking always has been is my inspiration has been Aaron Bevan and the way he created the NHS, I mean, that is my inspiration to work towards an economic organization or ecosystem, which is a service which is free at the point of delivery, And this is my sort of vision to be able to, and this is what I wanted to share. I did share at the last conference, and this year again, I'm going to be mentioning about that power of collaboration,
Yeah.
but with the view that the we all have this physical illnesses or not well-being at some point in time. The same thing is true for financial well-being. And this is where I draw a parallel, where we all need help and support at some point in life. And we will need that, especially people from ethnic minority communities. To be able to do that, they to take your point forward, Blessing, the mainstream has to be accommodating. The mainstream has to understand that there are within the demography, there are people who are eligible, who are very talented, who are skilled, who are motivated. How can we bring them into the fold? And that's the kind of the programs which I feel that at
Yes.
that point of delivery, that service has to be there. If somebody like you, me, anyone comes up with a business idea in the morning, I can go to just Bernie and say, well, Bernie, this is what I think about. What do you think? But Bernie is part of that ecosystem. I am part of that ecosystem. Blessing is part of that ecosystem. So we may not be servicing that area which that person is requiring, but we definitely know that just as we go to A&E, they would shift us to wherever speciality that we need. So that's the kind of the parallel I have in mind for a business support ecosystem, which is diverse, which Bernie, yourself, Blessing, myself, we are all aspiring towards. And I believe that other point which I wanted to make was the financial health is very much linked with the mental and physical well-being of our people.
Yeah, it's
Majority of our people.
absolutely, yes, absolutely.
Majority of our people, I mean, there are broken relationships, there are different kinds of traumatic experiences which people come through, especially women and young people, and they need to be supported financially, to be empowered financially, to be able to get on their feet. And that's the kind of the piece that we are very keen, that
Yeah,
what's that emotional well-being that we can empower these people to access the mainstream services or help the mainstream services to understand what is
absolutely.
needed.
Absolutely. And that takes me to the whole uh, thing about how can we help the little ways, because it's about simplifying it, right? And one of the
Yeah.
little ways is awards. And so that takes me to the Master in Diversity awards that are coming up in October, because awards help organizations to grow. It puts organizations in the eyes of the community in a good way. It highlights the good work that they have been doing, and it makes people feel more comfortable in dealing with them. So I am using this opportunity to say to you, the Master in Diversity Awards in October, they'll be held at the Senate, sponsored kindly by the former First Minister Mark Drakeford, who actually supported the conference last year. He was the opening speaker. The Minister for Social Justice and Chief Whip, the West Women Chief Whip last year, Minister for Economy, they sent their greetings by video. They could not be in attendance. But we have the support at the government level. Now, we don't want to go into representation, but that's something, let's just put that in our minds. Representation as well is key, right? Now, so that is going to be at the Senate. Why is it going to be at the Senate? Because I want us to feel like, yes, we belong. We belong. It is our Senate. It's not politically driven. There's no political agenda, right? But it is about we need to feel comfortable in the places and spaces that
Mm.
make decisions for us. We need to feel that they are seeing us, and we need to get that kind of credit. So please download, go on to masteringdiversity.com, download a nomination pack and nominate your diversity champion, because our diversity champion, I can assure you, is going to be somebody who's doing great things within the community for the economy of the community in any event. So, and they'll be definitely be displaying excellence, and they'll be displaying what we're talking about today, and that is being great allies and great partners. So please do. And I want to shout out to the sponsors of the Master Diversity Conference this year. I want to give a shout out to Augie. They were at the event there. I met them at your event, in NatWest event that time as well. Brown Jacobson, I met them at your event. You see what I mean? So you see the impact that NatWest is making. Okay, right? So that they've come on board as sponsors, and Augie are the sponsors of the Gender Equality Zone. Brown Jacobson, the public sector sponsors. Then we have Bevan Buckland, they've returning partners with their representation. So we have Welsh Ambulance Services Trust are the sponsors for the digital inclusion zone. But I'm telling you, there is a silent partner in the Stable Resources who have paid for that zone to facilitate Welsh Ambulance Services, who are a charity, to be able to deliver, because they cannot be there this year. That's the level of community and collaboration that we have. They don't even want the credit, but I am putting their name out there. That's the kind of spirit that we have. Okay. Commonwealth Games Team Wales Sports. Sports is at the heart. They're also supporting the sports zone. Education, we have Scouts Cymru. Yes. Kerry Gemmell, I met her at another event of another fantastic lady I went to support, Molly Fenton. I met Kerry there, and no, there. You see, so that's how it works. When you support, you don't have to be seeking for your own yourself. Go out and support. People will join. Tony Clarkston, she is dyslexic. She is top of her field. She's suffered with her health. She's suffered with neurodiversity, and she is going to be. She sponsored the Cognitive and Neurodiversity Zone because she's showing how it's done. Deloitte have come on. They're sponsoring the bags. Yes, and so they dip their toe in. They're not delivering this year, but they're supporting the event. I hope I've not forgotten anyone else. I don't think I've forgotten anyone. So those, our partners, Welsh Rugby Union, they have sponsored the venue, so I can give everything free. So we have all the exhibitors are free this year because WRU have sponsored that. And Cardiff Life, WCS agency, they are dealing with all things marketing and promotions. So, look at that. The spirit of diversity, spirit of inclusion. Now we have 3 minutes, and I always give my guests the last word. So first, quickly, you can do it quickly. What would you like people to take away of all the things we've discussed today? I'm going to first put Akmal up. You have 2 seconds.
Thank you.
30 seconds.
Yeah, thank you, Bernie. Yeah, it's been lovely. I mean, it's been so insightful. Thank you for the opportunity. I just wanted to reinforce my commitment, my vision, my really mission, as it were, to create an economic system based on social and economic equality, financial inclusion, and to be eliminating poverty. And I feel that if we are looking at that Future Generations Act, it is our responsibility at this point in time to help our women and young people to think entrepreneurially and to think about a business idea that they can empower themselves. And my main message is that the people who want to start their businesses, they are not alone. We have got people like Bernie,
Yes,
like
yes, I'm gonna have to
Blessing,
stop you
like
now.
myself.
Quickly wrap up. Less than a minute. Sorry. Wrap up quickly. Yes. Yeah.
Blessing?
Oh, okay. Well,
Oh,
I think mine is just get comfortable with being uncomfortable and don't shy away from the difficult conversations.
yes. Get comfortable with being comfortable. Don't shy away from the difficult conversations. So for me, it is we go together or not at all. Let's not forget that. And sometimes it is not at all. So if you find sometimes you have to walk away from something or someone that is just toxic, not inclusive, then do walk away with your dignity. Yes. Thank you so much. Stay on with me, my colleagues and friends. But thank you for watching. And another time is coming next on Monday is our next LinkedIn Live. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.